Welcome to Michael's Kids Club Camp Creatology. Today we will create a leopard pinata. Join us for all 10 days of making. Enjoy!
Hello everyone, my name's Megan and today I'm going to show you how to make your leopard pinata. So there's just a couple of materials that we're going to need for today's craft. So make sure that you have each one of these items. You're going to need some cardstock, at least 2 pieces of cardstock. You're going to want some tissue paper squares. You're going to want some scissors, some glue, and if you have any tape and if you have a ruler, that's going to help you out with your pinata too. And then you definitely want to have something fun to stick inside of your pinata. So I'm going to be sticking a lot of fun pom-poms into my pinata, but you can stick treats, candy, prizes, whatever kinds of things you want to inside of your pinata. I've already printed out my template. So if you don't already have your template printed out, make sure you go ahead and have a grown-up print that out for you. We're going to start off by making the shape of the leopard's face, and I'm going to cut this circle out from my template sheet. And because I'm making a pinata, I need there to be a top and a bottom, and we're going to connect the top and the bottom together, and that's how it's going to give us enough space in between the top and the bottom in order to fill it up with prizes. Now that I have my template cut out, I'm going to take one of my pieces of cardstock and I'm going to fold it in half. And the reason why I'm going to fold it in half is because we're going to cut 2 circles out of this cardstock. So if I fold it in half, I have one sheet and I have a second sheet. And then with just tracing this one time, I'm going to get the front circle and I'm going to get the back circle for my pinata. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to draw around the circle. And then I'm going to take my pair of scissors and I'm going to cut through both layers of cardstock in order to get 2 circles, one for the front and one for the back. Now, if this is too thick for you to cut through, you can cut 1 circle at a time and you don't have to fold your paper in half. Also notice that I cut right here so that it doesn't have the fold and these are 2 separate pieces. So if you get your circle a little too close to the fold, make sure that you cut your 2 circles apart so that we don't just have one weird big circle, we have 2 smaller circles. So once you have your circles cut, double check that you have 2 that are exactly the same size. Now we're going to work on making the part that goes around the top and the bottom in order to give us space to put our treats inside. So in order to make that section, I'm going to take my next sheet of cardstock. And I have, for my next sheet of cardstock, this is me having the paper long ways. So I'm going to fold the paper in half, and I call this hot dog style because it looks like you're eating a big hot dog bun. If you fold it this way, you get something that I call a hot dog fold. If you fold it the other way, I call that a hamburger fold. So you fold it hot dog style, and then you're going to cut it in half to have 2 long rectangles. And in the directions, it says that each one of these rectangles is about 4 1/4 inches long or wide, 4 1/4 inches wide and 11 inches long because we took the cardstock and we folded it in half. So we have 4 1/4 of an inch, and we have this way, it's 11 inches. So each one of these 2 are going to be folded up and used to combine the 2 faces of the leopard together. So what I'm going to do with one of those long rectangles is I'm going to take the rectangle and I'm folding it in half again, hot dog style. So I've taken this smaller rectangle that I already cut apart, I folded in half, hot dog style, and I'm going to fold it in half one more time to make it even skinnier. So when I open it up, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections. So I'm going to show you on the next one the same thing. We're going to fold it the long way. So first fold this rectangle in half as best you can. Now if it's too hard for you to fold, if it's too thick for you to fold again, another way of doing this is by opening it back up and folding each of the sides towards the center. So if you don't want to fold it all the way over in half again, if it's too thick, you can also fold it this way. Now what's cool about folding it this way is that you've made kind of like a little racetrack. And the racetrack is exactly what we're going to use in order to go around the circle. So I'm going to take this other one and I'm going to fold it towards the center line as well. And so now I have another racetrack with a line down the middle. I'm going to stack my two racetracks on top of each other, and then I'm going to do something a little bit crazy. I'm going to start cutting out triangles along this line and along this line. And the reason why I'm going to do that is so that my paper can bend and fold in order to kind of make that round shape like the leopard's face. So I'm going to take my scissors, and I have both of my racetracks stacked on top of each other, and I'm going to cut triangles. So here's a triangle, and here's another triangle. And these triangles don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be right next to each other. You can kind of space them out. They don't all have to be the same size. You can cut them however you'd like. And I'm going to cut it along this side of the racetrack. And then I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to cut just to this first line right here, and I'm cutting out these triangles. And you don't need these triangles, so you can kind of recycle them as you go, or put them to the side. And I'm cutting some triangles. It kind of looks like crocodile teeth or alligator teeth, with all of these little triangles cut out of it. Awesome. Now here's why we just did that. Because if I take any of these racetracks, because I have these little teeth, it helps me to bend this paper. It's hard to bend paper and fold paper into a circle, but now that I have these little teeth, I can bend it a lot easier. So now I'm going to take one of the pieces of cardstock that I cut at the very beginning for the front of the face, and I'm going to line some teeth up along the circle, and I'm going to use tape. So I'm going to tear off a little piece of tape, and I'm going to put some tape over top of the teeth, and I'm going to keep wrapping those teeth around the circle, and I'm going to keep putting down some tape. And sometimes you can get a piece of tape that covers two teeth at once, so that you don't have to use too much tape. But I'm going to use tape in order to get this to go all the way around the circle. Cool. Now in order to make this a piñata, we need the other side too, so that we can have something back here, and then we're going to have a little pocket to put all of our prizes. So we can take the other piece of cardboard or cardstock, and we can hold it up in here, and I can hold it up and put some tape on these teeth in order to keep this. Now if it's hard for you to hold this up with your hand, you can always stuff some things inside of it, so that it can kind of hold it up for you if you can't hold on to it. And I also have a tape dispenser that's kind of easy for me to rip off the pieces of tape. So maybe if you have somebody nearby, they can rip the pieces of tape off for you and hand them to you, and then it can go faster for you. So all of this is eventually going to get covered up, so it really doesn't matter that it has all the teeth and that you can see all of those designs. In a little bit, we're going to put this one along the top, and we're going to finish off the circle. But before we do that, we're going to start talking about some of the other features of the leopard. The template has some patterns for your ear It has a little nose, it's a heart-shaped nose, and it has a tongue and has like a little eyebrow and some of the inside of your ear and some eyes and things like that. So we're going to use this template in just a minute to help us to decorate. But before we're ready to decorate, we need to go ahead and fill this. So at this point, if you have some treats to put inside of your piñata, why don't you go ahead and stuff them into the little piñata pocket. I'm going to take some different pom-poms, and it'll be fun if I bust this open and pom-poms go flying out everywhere. That sounds like fun. So that's going to be fun for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish this up by sealing it up with the last little bit of racetrack. So now that I have all my prizes inside, I'm going to take the rest of my racetrack and I'm going to finish up the circle. So I'm kind of folding this over and I'm using my tape and my teeth to help me. And I'm going to do the front side first, and then I'm going to flip over and make sure that I have the back side taped as well. Or maybe you can do kind of both, go back and forth as we go. So here's some tape on these teeth. Tape on these teeth. Some of my prizes are trying to escape. That's okay, I'll put them all back in before I close it up. Okay, it's all closed back up. I'll put some tape over here. I'll put some tape here. And we're just about ready to decorate our leopard. Now you can also, if you want this to hang, if you want to make it like a real piñata and you want it to hang from somewhere, this would also be a good time for you to put a little bit of string around your piñata. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. So I don't have any string with me, but I do have this pipe cleaner. So if you pretend like this is string, you can kind of slide this through, and then it would give you something. You could even use this pipe cleaner if you wanted to, if you don't have any yarn or any string. And you can slide it through in order to make something to kind of hang from. And then you can hang this piñata wherever you want it to. So I'm not going to use my string right now. I'm just going to kind of make a piñata that kind of just sits on the table. But if you want to make it so that you can swing it, feel free to do that. And obviously, it will take you a couple of hits in order to bust this open because the tape is keeping it nice and secure. So this is the side that I'm going to now decorate, and I'm going to decorate it using tissue paper squares, and I'm going to use my template to cut out some different things. So first I'm going to use my template to cut out the ears. So the ears are just going to be on one of the sides. So we're going to cut out these ears and we're going to glue them on, and then we're just going to decorate over top. So I'm going to cut out the ears, just the outside around the ear right now. And I'm going to go back to my cardstock, and you should have plenty of leftover cardstock from when you cut out the circles. And if not, you can always use another sheet, but I think I should be able to cut 2 of these ears out of the cardstock. Now, if you want to, you can draw lines with pencil and then cut it out, but I have 2 layers of cardstock lined up with my template, and I'm going to go ahead and cut both of these ears at the same time by stacking the template on top and cutting both of those ears. Move my template off to the side, and here are my ears. So I'm going to take these 2 ears and I'm going to go ahead and tape them down. And you can kind of use the ears to cover up if there's any gaps or any spaces. So I've put my ears down on my piñata, and now I'm ready to do pretty much a layer of I'm going to use the teal tissue paper, but if you want to use pink, if you want to use yellow, if you want to use green, you can make your leopard whatever color you want to. I'm just going to use the teal so that it looks like the one in the picture. So here are all the different squares. We're going to take some of our craft glue and we're going to put some of the craft glue over the ear. And I'm going to start laying down a couple of squares and covering up the space. And it's okay if your squares go over, because I'm going to show you how we can kind of trim that all up and make it nice and even again. And if your paper overlaps, you might need a little bit more glue to hold on to it. And I'm just going to lay down a couple of those pieces. Maybe one more up here. There we go. And I'm going to cover the inside of the face also. So maybe about this much, and I'll stop and do some gluing, and then I'll come back and see if I need to do any more. You can use lots of different colors. You don't have to use the same color. You can make it a multicolor leopard by putting down lots of different color tissue paper squares. So feel free to let your creativity run wild. Put some more glue. This is looking good. I think decorating is my favorite part. A little bit more here. And it's okay if you go over the edge, we'll trim that down. Cool. Maybe a little more glue. To connect these together, and maybe a little bit more over here. All right, now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to kind of trim around it. So you can flip it over if you want to and see where some of those spots are hanging out. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit more towards the circle. So I'm holding my piñata in one hand, and I'm going through with my scissors and kind of trimming closer to the cardstock so that when I flip it over, the blue color is going to look more like the shape of the leopard that we want. And I'm thinking about taping my ears a little bit too on this side. So I think while I have it on this side, I'm going to take just a little bit of tape and tape my ear here. And I'm going to tape my ear here, just for safekeeping. Ooh, look at what we have so far. So here's our leopard. Now we need to add some spots to our leopard, and we want to add the face. So inside of the ear template was a smaller little arc, and that part's going to be the inside of the ear. So I'm going to choose a different color, and I'm going to use a darker blue, but again, you can use whatever color you want to. And I'm going to cut a piece of tissue paper that's a dark blue, that's the size of the inside of my ear. So I'm going to use this template, and I'm going to cut to the inside of the ear, and then I'm going to put this on top of a square of tissue paper. And actually, I'm going to take 2 pieces of tissue paper because I want one for each ear. So I'm stacking 2 pieces of tissue paper on top of each other. I'm going to put this template on top of it. I'm going to line it up at the bottom so I don't have to cut that part. And then I'm going to cut the inside of my ears. Just like that. Yay, and I have 2 of them. So then I can use my glue and I can put them on the inside of the ear. So here's one. And here's another one. Perfect. Looking good, looking good. All right, now we want to go ahead and how about we do the nose? So the nose is also going to be cut out of one of these tissue paper squares. And you can use the template and you can put it over top of the square and do the same thing we just did. But I'm also going to show you a little trick for making a heart. So I'm going to fold my tissue paper in half. And here's the fold right here. And if you've ever tried to cut a heart, you're going to cut from the point and you're going to make like a little ice cream cone. And then at the top of the ice cream cone, you're going to make it round. And then you're going to cut down a little divot, and that is how you make a heart. Now, if that one didn't turn out very good, or if you don't like the shape of your heart, you can always use the template and you can cut it out exactly the same size as this one. But I really like this size heart, and I think I'm going to go ahead and use that for my nose. So then I'm going to glue it down for where my nose goes. Cute. And next I want to think about my mouth. So here's the template for the mouth, and you can try cutting these freehand, which means not using a template, or you can use the template. So all of that's up to you. And sometimes if you're a little younger, you might want to use the template, or you might even need a grown-up to help you do some of this cutting. So feel free to ask for help from a grown-up if you need it. And this is what this mouth part's going to look like. I'm actually going to fold the mouth part in half. And when I fold it in half, it does something called making symmetry. And symmetry is a fancy math word for a mirror image of the other side. So it's kind of like where I just folded this paper in half is like a mirror. And when I open up the mirror, I have two pieces that are exactly the same, that match up to each other. So this is what the mouth's going to be like. Now, if you don't want to try and cut these out of your tissue paper, you can always just use a marker and color this in and leave it, so you don't have to use the black tissue paper if you don't want to. But I'm going to go ahead and fold it back in half, and I'm going to try and cut two pieces of the mouth. So I have two pieces, and I'm going to fit it as close as I can. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same. We're going to get it pretty close. So there I go with this. Boop. Then I'm going to cut around the outside. And let's see how it looks. Aha! I have two little U pieces. And I can use those two little U pieces to make a little mouth. Now maybe I should have left the nose so that I can stick the mouth underneath, but I can still kind of squeeze it underneath. So that should be fine. Then I'm gonna go ahead and glue down the mouth. Cute, 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 cute. And feel free to make a different shaped mouth if you don't want your mouth to be the same shape. I want you to be creative with your leopard. Putting a little bit of glue on the leopard's mouth. Sliding that. It's like a little mustache almost. There we go. Here's this part. And then over here, put a little bit of glue. Oops, my tissue paper is stuck to my finger. And there goes the rest of the mouth. Cute. And then I'm going to cut out a little tongue. So use the template if you want to, or I bet you can cut out a fun tongue shape. I bet you could do that by yourself. I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to cut a little round piece by doing this. And then when I open it up, ba-dum, I have a cute little tongue or you could flip it this way. I like this. Cute. Feel free to use the template if you don't want to make up your own tongue. You can do it the same or you can do it different. There we go. Now we have some eyes and some eyebrows. So for the eyes, I'm going to use my template. I like going back and forth and kind of showing you some different options. So I'm going to cut out the eyes from the template, and I'm going to line up 2 pieces of tissue paper, and I'm going to cut both of the eyes at the same time. There we go. That's the outside, and here comes the inside. Fabulous. It's like a little U shape, and I'm going to put that little U shape, and I'm going to put it on 2 pieces of black tissue paper square. So here's 1, and here's 2. Put them on top of each other so I can cut 2 eyes at the same time and try to make them as close to the same size as I can. So now I'm cutting around the U. I'm going to come back and cut the inside out. I'm just going around it first, holding on to both of my squares. And if it's hard for you to do both at the same time, just do one at a time and you can come back. You can always pause the video. And I'm going to cut the inside. Cute. And now I have 2 eyes. So you can turn your eyes so they're facing this way. You can turn your eyes so they look like they're sleeping. You can turn one eye up and one eye down. You can do whatever you want to with your silly leopard. So feel free to decide where you want to put your eyes. I'm going to do one up and one down like he's winking at me. Then I'm going to put some glue. Boop. I actually kind of like it on the side like that too. And I'm going to take this one and put it over here. I like the way that's looking too. And then it looks like we just need our little eyebrows, and we need some whiskers, and then we're just about finished and ready to add some spots. So this is what the eyebrow looks like in the template. So I'm going to cut this out, and any shape that has 4 sides is called a quadrilateral, because quad means 4. So this is a little quadrilateral, and I'm going to take some black. I'm going to do 2 pieces of black, or I bet I could even just fold 1 piece in half. I think it's going to fit. Yep, perfect. And I'm going to cut out 2 of these at the same time. Boop. And this way. Awesome. So now I have 2 of these little eyebrows, and I like the pointy part of the eyebrow to go towards the center, but you can flip it around too if you want to. Kind of gives him some expression on his face. Is he serious? Is he silly? Is he sad? You can kind of mess with the eyebrows and make them have different emotions. Or her. Could be a her leopard too. There we go. Cute. Now we're ready for some whiskers and some spots. So I have plenty of other pieces of black tissue paper, and I'm going to take some of the scraps that I already have, and I'm just going to fold it in half, and I'm going to cut little dots. So I'm kind of cutting around, and if this part's hard, you can just kind of tear off little dots, or again, you can ask a grown-up for help. But I'm going to get some different size dots, and I'm going to use some different size dots in order to decorate my leopard. So I'm going to take another piece or 2. I'm going to fold it in half so that I can cut 4 of them at the same time. Whoa, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to cut even more. So now I'm going to try and cut a little circle. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going around. Boop. I have more spots. So now that you have several different spots, you can add some glue and find some places that you want to put some spots. Boop. That's a good spot. See what I did there? Here's a spot. Ooh, they're stacking on top of each other. And feel free to make some of the spots different sizes. They don't all have to be perfect circles. Some can be bigger, some can be smaller. And put them wherever you'd like. I like this. Looks good. Okay, maybe one more. Perfect. And now I'm going to make some whiskers and then we're going to be done. So I have some extra cardstock paper. So this is extra cardstock from when we made the racetracks that went around the piñata. So I'm going to take some of this paper and I'm going to cut a very thin piece. And this was already folded in half, so I already have quite a few whiskers right here. So I cut these in half, and here's some whiskers that I already have. And I only need half of those, so I'm going to fold these in half again. And now I have plenty of whiskers to play with. You can make your whiskers even skinnier by cutting even thinner lines. And you can also think about curling up your whiskers a little bit. If you have a paintbrush or if you have a pencil, you can kind of wrap it around and you can make the whiskers a little bit curly if you want to. So I think I'm going to curl mine a little bit with the end of my paintbrush. And then I'm going to glue it down, and guess what? We're just about done. All right. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to put my whiskers down. Love it. Put some glue on this whisker. And put some glue on this whisker, and it looks perfect. Yay, look at this leopard we just made. So we just made our very first leopard piñata, and these piñatas can just be cute and they can just sit on a shelf, or they can just kind of hang out on a table. Or like I said before, you could put a piece of string through it and then you can actually kind of beat the piñata and have all the different prizes come out. You can also just kind of like mess with it, maybe play toss back and forth with someone else, and then eventually all the prizes are gonna fall out. So there's lots of ways to play with your leopard piñata. But I'm so glad that you came and joined me today for this class, and I hope you come back to more of our Camp Creatology classes. See you soon.